Roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Present.
Mr. Hopper?
Here.
Mr. Hoover?
Here.
Mr. Moan?
Here.
And non-voting advisor, Mr. Alexander?
Here. We have quorum. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from our February meeting?
I'll motion that.
Motion by Mr. Harris.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hoover. Any discussion, corrections, deletions? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Minutes are approved unanimously. New business, 2019 annual report from Veris Partners.
My name is Ryan Hahn with Veris Partners. My office is at 3209 West Smith Valley Road, Greenwood, Indiana 46143. I just learned how to do animations on PowerPoint, so this is going to be exciting.
All right. I'm excited.
Join the club.
I'll build the drama. So you should have received a copy at year end. We filed our annual report consistent with our economic development agreement for the Greenwood Business Center project. I'll give a brief overview. It's been a couple of years since I've been in front of the commission here, but this was a property that we purchased at the end of 2018. It's approximately 11 acres. It's located on Main Street, just east of I-65. We acquired this property from Allen Commercial Group that had this ownership of this for some time. They had an economic development agreement in place for approximately $250,000 for some on-site utility work. We approached the commission prior to purchasing the property about repositioning those funds for use in constructing a public roadway that goes through the east side of our property. So a description of the development here, I told you, animations. We use this property to move forward with 156,000 square foot commercial industrial building on the property. This was constructed to what we would call an institutional standard. So that's high quality. We developed a concrete consultant. This is a 7-inch floor slab installed that has high efficiency LED lighting, high efficiency HVAC, ESFR fire protection. The entire parking lot is soil stabilized, so it's a high quality product going on a site that had sat dormant for some period of time. So some of the, in addition to that, some of the project benefits that we approached the commission on, and then some benefits that we didn't know about before we started design on this. First of all, the incentive allowed us to construct the extension of Commerce Parkway West Drive. This is at an existing intersection with Main Street, so that goes to the north. And what that allows is, this is really the keystone property for 57 acres on this corner. So once we're complete with that roadway, that's going to open up development and access to a major intersection on Main Street for all this additional property that neighbors this. One additional benefit that came out of our development was that as part of our drainage design, because we were the first in, our detention structure and stormwater management allowed us to vacate the easement for our neighbors, the Windhorst, which would have been an obstacle to developing that property immediately adjacent to I-65. So that was done prior to our start as well. And then I think most importantly for Greenwood, this is just an example of other communities that have spent tip dollars to actually build building structures to attract the type of employment, the type of use that we are marketing to with the Greenwood Business Center. The advantage to Greenwood is this is something where we made the investment going through there, and then at fruition we anticipate that Greenwood will see the benefit from an employment standpoint from this incentive. So to give you an update on project status, this is even since last year. We designed this, we closed on the property in October 2018. We started design in early 2019, started immediately into construction. There's approximately $2 million of site improvements in the ground right now. The building shell is standing. Interior is near completion, and then we've added to Greenwood's lakefront property that we can market here as well. In terms of what we got hit with late last year is the weather was not our friend, so this building still needs to be painted, and we still need to put the pavement down. We anticipate that happening in the next 30 to 60 days. Brief financial update. This is in the report as well, but I've got these figures updated. When we approached the commission in July of 2018, we committed to an investment of just over $7 million. To date, we've expended over $6.4 million and we're under a contract to completion of a little over $8.4 million. So we've exceeded our initial investment by over $1.3 million, and that does not include soft costs or the future intended improvements in that building. So a significant investment in this property. I still do not have the new assessment for the property. Suffice to say, we don't anticipate it staying at $20,000 next year, or last year's tax bill, which was $260. We expect to see a small jump on that. Future expectations, just a timeline to completion of the economic development agreement. Within the next 2 weeks, there's only a couple sticks of fire protection piping that have to be put in, clean up on the inside, the building's gonna be completed. Asphalt, in April, we anticipate at the latest that the asphalt pavement will be installed, the exterior painting. That will lead up to release of the performance securities and a certificate of substantial completion, which will allow us to perfect the requirements of our agreement. And then leading up to May is when we'll be preparing the title documents and the deed to dedicate the road right away to the town. Other prospects on marketing and leasing, I think you've heard this from several others, is that industrial and commercial space in this market has been on a tear. I highlighted a few sections in Johnson County. This is from the year-end report from Jones Lang LaSalle. Key point, they categorize this building as a mid-sized warehouse. It also would fall into a couple other categories, manufacturing and then possibly flex R&D space. 8% absorption is a huge number on this size space, also 18% absorption on the larger bulk distribution. So everything that's being put up is being backfilled with space. The other highlight here, and although they didn't categorize this as manufacturing space, there is currently no vacancy in that category right now in Johnson County. So this is key to get this finished to attract that type of employer here. In terms of what we've seen in marketability, we've had a robust leasing activity through the end of last year. Unfortunately, for us, some of those prospects actually landed elsewhere in Greenwood. They outgrew our building, but still ended up doing build-to-suits in Greenwood. So good for the community in general. We did have a couple of specialized distributors that needed the space within 90 days. Which we just simply couldn't accommodate. One of those went to St. Louis, and then we've got 2 active proposals right now to lease the entire building. So I guess in summary, we've exceeded our initial obligation. We plan to see this to completion, and the prospects look bright for next year for lease up. With that, any questions or concerns?
Anybody? None for me.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution 2020-02. Application approving property tax deductions for certain real property located within the East Side Economic Development Area, County Line Properties LLC at 1173 Airport Parkway, Phase 1.
For the record, that needs to be corrected. I apologize. It should only be 1173 Airport Parkway. County Line Partner should be removed.
Got it.
And it has been from the resolution.
Okay. All right. Is that you, Dustin? Okay. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, members of the commission. My name is Dustin Huddleston, attorney in Franklin, Indiana. I represent 1173 Airport Parkway LLC. This is the resolution that Mr. Hopper just announced, but also it's the second resolution as well. We're seeking 2 abatements. This is a 2-phase project, so I'll present on both if that's okay with you.
Yep.
We're here today because the subject property is in an economic development area, so this is the first step. We're seeking 2 separate abatements under the traditional 10-year schedule to construct 2 separate 24,000 square foot buildings. The entity that is applying for the abatement is the aforementioned LLC. Has 2 principal members. With me here tonight is Jeff Smith, who's the owner and president of Projects Plus. which is a business in Greenwood, Indiana, providing professional engineering services and surveying work. And also Joel Fritz, who's the president and founder of CTC Corporation, which is a commercial contracting company. We filed both abatements requests on February 24th with the Greenwood Legal Department. Like I said, we're going to develop it in 2 phases, and I don't have any animation, so. Here's the subject parcels. This is off Airport Parkway, so we've got the airport there to the east. The first phase would be the highlight blue parcel, which is closest to Airport Parkway. The second phase is highlighted in yellow. This whole area is most of it's been owned by County Line Properties, with Jess Smith is a member of as well. If you recall, there was condo units developed just to the north of the parcel in blue, which that received an abatement back in July 2016. That building, the cost of construction was $1.8 million, and the total build out was $1 million, and all the units have been sold as of now. County Line Properties does own that balance where the cul-de-sac ends at the top. The LLC that I represent owns the parcel now in blue. They are contracted to buy the second parcel within 1 year of February. That's highlighted yellow. So they'll be owners of both parcels within. The first phase is, this is just a zoom in a little bit closer, you can see. Both parcels are about same size, about 1.8 acres. This gives you an overall about phase 1 and phase 2. So the first phase you can see is the building closest to Airport Parkway. It is zoned I-1, and it's in your Airport Boulevard allocation area, East Side allocation area, and East Side economic development area. The land acquisition cost for this parcel was $218,880. The projected start of the construction, if the abatement is granted, is fall of this year or spring of 2021. And then we would commit to have construction completed by the end of 2021, this for phase 1 building. The building would be 24,000 square feet. Cost to construct is $1.8 million. It would consist of 61 parking spaces. We do not, at this time, believe we need any kind of rezoning or any kind of variance or modifications. We just need to seek a building permit. The second phase would be very similar, but the building would be facing the end of the property, and that's the same size, 24,000 square feet, still zoned same and all that. The land acquisition for that property would be $157,505. We would want to start construction on this building spring of 2022 and commit to have it done by the end of 2023. And it would again be a $1.8 million cost of construction. This would have a little bit less parking spaces at 55 as a total. The first building, as you can see, has dotted lines where we would propose to have 4 different areas that can be leased out, although we'd be flexible if a company comes in wanting the entire building. It's going to be that flexible, or half of it. The second one, we would propose just to split it down the middle and have a little bit larger area. We think these 2 sites are going to be very attractive just because of the infrastructure and the commitment you've done to the airport, and also developing I-65. They're going to be smaller buildings as versus where you have on the east side of the interstate. So I think this is and both gentlemen believe this is something missing or that is needed in the area as more of a small business where they can come in and lease out the space. There's building 1 as far as the footprint. This was in the application as showing where the bay areas are. There will be in each building 2 offices constructed with the build out, and then you can see the elevations on building 1. The building 2 is similar. It has the 2 bays or 2 areas, and then elevation is similar. So what we're here for tonight is taxes. So what I did was did an analysis and confirmed These numbers have all been confirmed with the Johnson County Assessor. And currently, right now, the Phase 1 parcel, the land assessed value is $2,900 a year, and that generates $28.54 in taxes per year. After the build-outs, I gave again, this is confirmed by the Johnson County Assessor, the projected land assessment value would jump up to $332,000. The building assessment would be $1.3 million. So the total assessment would be almost $1.7 million. That would generate $31,500 in taxes per year. So if you applied the abatement, there would be a total generation of taxes paid over 10 years of $190,000 and change, and $125,000 would be abated. So that's, even if nothing happens, you're still going to get that $125,000. Phase 2 is similar numbers, but a little bit different. Current taxes that generate on this as of now is $72.32. Projected total assessment after the building is $1.7 million, and that would generate north of $31,500, $31,600. And the total taxes paid over that 10-year period would be $191,000 change. The abated would be $125,000, just under $126,000. So in closing, we think these are good opportunities, good investment to add an option for not the large corporations, but more of the smaller companies to go in here. The gentlemen are ready to invest in Greenwood, and we request pass both resolutions, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Huddleston?
Yeah, I've got a couple. So
Yes, sir.
in your application, you show no jobs created, no salary. Is that only because they're spec at this point?
That's right.
And you didn't want to put a number in there?
Correct. We
Okay.
don't have any end users as of yet, but as soon as we anticipate starting construction, if the abatement goes into this fall this year, we would start marketing right away.
Okay. And then second question, so Projects Plus, is Projects Plus going to move into this space, or are they going to keep their property in Indy at this point?
We're located in the building just to the north of the orange square, or the blue square.
Okay, is that an Indianapolis? That's an Indianapolis address, right?
No, it's
Oh, okay.
Greenwood.
It's Franklin.
It's Greenwood.
Greenwood, okay.
135.
Because your address says Indianapolis on the taxpayer application. I was just curious.
Might be my home address, maybe, but
Now that I think the address you're referring to is CT Corporations. I put his address. His business, CT
It's
Corporations.
Indianapolis.
is-
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. Because Project Plus used to be in downtown Greenwood, right?
we're on 135 right now. We're about 2 weeks away from moving into this building here just north of the one we proposed to build.
Okay. And then last question. So are you asking for abatement for both properties, of which the yellow one you don't have ownership of?
We're on contract to buy that. We don't have it title right now, but we have to purchase that property within 1 year. So that's correct.
So you're asking for both abatements now,
That's correct.
and I'm going to turn to our attorney and just ask, is that within our purview to do that prior to the ownership of the full ownership of the property? Okay. All right, I'm good. I'm done.
Dustin, your only access to Phase 2 property is through Phase 1 off of Airport Parkway.
Yeah,
Currently, yes.
Currently, yes. This is the proposed site development we would have. That's correct. Go ahead.
There's plans to, on the north building, there's a road on the north side of the north building that we just finished. That road will be connected into the cul-de-sac behind the medical buildings there that go up to the stoplight there at Costco.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve resolution 2020-2?
A motion.
Motion by Mr. Harris, second. Second, Mr. Moe. Mr. Moe, any discussion from the commission? commission? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Alright, motion is approved unanimously. Is there a motion for resolution 2020-3?
I'll move for approval.
Motion by Mr. Hoover. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Harris. Any discussion from the commission? Alright, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is approved 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
And as always, Ms. Cropper and Mr. Campbell, may put you down as well.
Happy to.
Thank you.
Alright, old business, consideration of Cummins Central 9 proposal for use of education funds pledged in the Cummins project agreement. Sam, hi Sam.
This is set for, as old business because it relates to a grant of $1 million that has already been approved by the RDC as part of the Cummins project agreement. I'll start with the ask. The Central 9 would like a resolution today that would authorize a payment of $332,270,000 to be dispersed in May in order for them to go forward. The project agreement calls for a total grant of $1 million. It was deliberately left open as to the timing of the payment because the process, which has taken 8 months, and involved several collaborators, including not only Central 9, Cummins, Ivy Tech, Indris, Hauser, the Indiana Department of Education. They took their time, they did a very thoughtful analysis and came up with what we think is a very good proposed use for it. So now we're coming back to you. I think when it was originally presented, we thought that it would be more like 5 equal installments instead. The first installment is going to be a bit front-loaded in order for them to buy the equipment and furnishings and hard assets that they need to complete this project.
Any other questions for Sam?
Sam, did you say 332, 370?
270.
270?
Glad you asked, Kevin, because I cheated off of you and looked at your last 3 digits over there. I had the 332, right? But I didn't get the 270. Alright, any other questions? Alright, is there a motion to approve?
I'll move that we approve for 332, 270 to be paid in May of 2020.
Correct.
I will second that.
Second by Mr. Bell. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Alright, motion approved 5-0.
Can I make a comment, Mr. Hopper?
Yeah, go ahead.
Personally, being the school board guy here, I think this is exciting for C9, and being a product of C9 myself, I think this is a great step in progressing the program forward over there. So I won't tell you when I last took a computer class at C9, but it involved an amber screen on a mainframe. So I'll be excited to come see this when you guys get a bill out. So.
Mag cards and
Is that in a museum somewhere right now?
It might be in a museum somewhere right now.
Yeah, my wife took computer classes there as well.
Yeah.
Years ago.
And I don't want to one-up anybody, but I'm second generation C9 myself. This E&T, my mother took shorthand at Central 9 back in the mid to late Stone Age.
This $1 million grant was one of the really bright spots of the
Yes,
Cummins deal. I thought
fantastic.
that was great. So it was awesome. There are many bright spots, but this was one of them.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Sam, thank you.
Thank you.
Alright, capital project report, Caroline Road I-65 development project.
This is a relatively simple one, cleaning up contracts with Amanda and the legal department who seem to be getting ever more thrown their way these days. We had contracts for phase 2 and a supplemental phase 2 and a variety of things for the land at County Line Road that was involved in that purchase. We missed the actual update to the original phase 1 that the owner had for $1,850. So I'd like to ratify that, to go ahead and ratify that contract and clean up our paperwork.
1,850, you say, huh?
Yep.
Okay. Is is there a motion to approve as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Second by Mr. Kimball. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Alright, motion approved 5-0. Presidential block, still you, Kevin?
So if you've driven by Main Street, across from Fire Station 91, you can see that those buildings are no longer with us. But as part of that, we had an environmental consultant that was used by it was actually the same one we used for the phase one, but that property was used in automobile and other kind of uses over the last 100 years. So when we were excavating the foundations, we had them out there, and if anything looked any suspect at all, we sent it out to a certified landfill. We ended up with more soil to remove than the original guesstimate. And that gets you two ways, because you got to backfill that with something, right? So the good news is that everything was removed. That whole acre now can be used as residential, commercial, any use. We just got rid of anything that seemed anyone suspect. There's even some coal chutes going to the houses and stuff, so it's just a different vestige of a different time. So the increase was $28,282.47. This was all in trucking fees, removal of spoiled dirt, and then importing gravel and dirt to backfill that site. So that brings the total contract, I believe, to $126,482.47 payable from the central TIF to NASB Construction. I'd like to do that amendment so that we can pay Mr. NASB his firm the remainder of that balance outstanding.
I know I drove by a couple times when they were out there working. They were working on weekends too to get that all.
The deputy mayor stated that he would like to see it done quickly.
Oh, there you go. Deputy mayor wants, deputy mayor gets.
He likes parking lots. He doesn't like those grounds. So now he's got a gravel, smooth thing. He'll probably be out there personally spraying weeds as soon as the grass comes out.
It's good for the city. Alright, is there a motion to approve amendment for $28,282.47?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Hoover, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Harris. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion approved 5-0.
Thank you, George.
Thanks, Kevin. Legal department, Sam.
We have nothing, thank you.
Okay, you had a walk on. Did you want to walk something on?
No, the walk-on was going to be the Cummins.
No, the LWG engagement.
I'm sorry.
Lennon Whitty.
Please have one, just 1 minute.
No, that's okay.
We have the,
I can do it for you. This is the engagement for what we anticipate to be the bonds for the next section of Worsville Road, Worsville Road Section 2. We've kind of issued bonds each time we have to do this, especially with what interest rates have done recently. We hope to be able, I think they're at not just my lifetime low, but all-time lows, be able to capitalize on that and issue some from the central TIF to pay for the Worsville Road Section 2. Is it just the engagement for London Whitty?
Just for London Whitty.
Okay, so they'd be a financial advisor on that.
So, there's an engagement and then there's an addendum to the engagement, right? Is that what I'm
Yeah,
looking
Shauna
at?
prepared a standard addendum that we put with.
Alright, and this was for,
Financial.
25,000 not to exceed, was that what
Yeah,
it
and that
was?
would be, correct me if I'm wrong, but we would build that into the bond issue. Yeah,
Will be.
Okay,
that'd be capitalized.
do I need a motion just to walk this on to start with? Or
No.
Just, okay. Alright, does anybody have any more questions for Kevin?
Is there just one proposal or two?
One's for 135.
One's for
the second.
Yeah.
This was worse than.
Yeah, well, and
No,
each
it's
one
Fry
is,
Road. It was a Fry.
each one is
Well, they should-
25,000.
Yeah,
No,
it's
it's
each one. So
one
it has the
total.
Fry Road in there as well. So let me tell you about the Fry Road one.
Yeah.
The Worsville Road bond, we're anticipating scoring the bond again for Worsville Road. The cost on that would be amortizing the bond. That'd be the primary part of that debt issuance. We're also looking forward to doing a Fry Road tip. It is starting to get near its expiration. We've got some really interesting projects coming up, including a trail from northwest to northwest annex, which is specifically mentioned on that, and then extending the Madison Avenue trail north as the road gets much wider, to extend that up towards Fry Road. So that would be a bond from the Fry Road tip that would focus on those projects. So there's two engagements that we have the same amount of money, both amortized in the bond, assuming once a bond, if it goes all through. And we'll be able to talk more about the projects when we actually have the bond resolution.
So it's 25,000 each.
Yes. Right after.
Okay, hold on,
The
'cause,
documents are the same except for the road goes.
well, yes, there is a second one. Okay, got it. All right. We're all on the same page now. All right. Is there a motion to approve both engagement letters plus the addendum to the engagement letters for London Woody Group doing business as LWG CPAs?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Harris. Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Hoover. Thank you, sir. All right, any more questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, motion approved 5-0.
As you know, especially those on council, it'll be a long process as we go through these and go through council, so we have plenty more time to.
Thanks, Ken. Steve?
Nothing today, thank you.
Mr. Wright, are you in here? He is not. Daniel? Ah, John's taking over. Brought in the A-team. Don't tell Daniel I said that. I don't want to hurt his feelings.
Talk a little faster.
I'm John Shell, I'm the project manager for the city, and I'm here on behalf of Daniel Johnston, city engineer, who's out of town today on city business. I guess in my terms, spring training has started and I'm pinch hitting. First of all, in short, we're asking for RDC's approval for funding on 4 parcels of the Worstville Road Section 2 project. These are, rookie pinch hitter. There we go. These are the last 4 parcels to be acquired in the project. These parcels are not enumerated consecutively, and I believe that the RDC prefers to review and vote on each parcel one at a time. So I'll present them that way unless you tell me differently. The first in section 2 is parcel 1. The area of this parcel is a little over 4/10 of an acre. The impacts are land, asphalt drive, fencing gate, and landscape, stones, trees, and bushes. The appraisal value was $40,700, and we're requesting approval for funding for an offer of $40,700 for the total parcel 1. For this, to allow the staff to proceed with the offer and acquisition. This parcel is actually located just on the east end of Stones Crossing Road. The one adjacent to it, to the left-hand side, it's the second parcel as you come in off of Honey Creek Road on the north side. The bare field to the left is the actual corner parcel.
Any questions? All right, is there a motion to approve?
Make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Campbell. Second? Second by Mr. Miller, sir. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion approved 5-0.
The second section is second part of section 2 is parcel number 3. It's comprised of 5 separate tracts of land. The permanent acquisition is 5.947 acres, and there's a temporary of 0.023 acres. The total appraisal value is $250,200, and so again, we're requesting funding so we can proceed with the offer and the acquisition. Along the left-hand side, the red vertical line is actually Honey Creek Road. As you proceed to the east, tract F is where the road will eventually curve to the north. That's 125 west proceeds north and butts into the far west end of Horseville Road. So that's the main east-west section of Stones Crossing Road. Tract A is the first section, the first piece of land south of Stones Crossing. Tract B is adjacent to it, and then as you proceed further east, you see C, D, and E is the little, if you straighten out the line, the little triangular wedge that'll be south of the S curve. That is Horseville proceeds from Horseville down into Stones Crossing.
So you've added extra colors in here that we don't normally see. So I guess my question is, all that, what exactly are we buying? All the colors?
Those 5 tracks are parcel 3.
And those are all owned by the same person, same entity?
Well, I was up here looking for fastballs and you just threw me.
Yeah, sorry. Because it seems like every other parcel we purchased, at least since I've been on here, has been one owner on one piece of property.
I may be able to answer that.
Okay.
There is a list of offering prices that has been provided as part of the report or presentation, and parcel 3 is owned by the Swartzes and Swartz Trust, and under the parcel number column there are several. You can see several parcel numbers.
Okay. So probably all owned by the Swartzes then. Alright.
So I have to thank the Houston Astros for flashing me a sign.
Yeah, right. I thought I heard somebody banging on a trash can back there.
The baseball team.
Yeah, way to keep the name going. Alright, any other questions? Alright, is there a motion to approve the request?
Make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Bowles.
Second.
Second by Mr. Cooper. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Alright, motion approved 5-0. Alright, parcel 12. Is that where we're at? Or parcel 3.
Oh, did I skip one?
Yeah, I think it's.
No, I think you
Then-
zoomed in on the drawing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the next one is tract A and tract B.
No, you're still on
I'm not
parcel
with
You're
3.
still on parcel 3.
That's parcel
We
3.
have
I'm
12
sorry, this
yet?
is zooming in on the 5 tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is track C, D, and E. Just a zoomed in look on those. There's parcel 12. Parcel 12 is just immediately north of track D. On the yellow section to the right is where the road will begin to curve to the north, and that's that tract E is underneath the curve of the road. So this
Motion by Mr. Hoover, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Harris. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion approved 5-0.
Okay, and the last is on the far west end. That's Honey Creek Road on the left, so this is where Stones Crossing actually joins up with Honey Creek Road, and you actually see the turn lane, acceleration lane coming out of Stones Crossing onto Honey Creek Road is the actual toe on this sketch. We're looking for approval of funding for $16,500. It's 6/10 of an acre for parcel 21, and again, seeking to allow the city staff to proceed with the offer and acquisition.
Is there a motion to approve as presented? Alright, I'll make it then. Motion by Mr. Hopper, is there a second? Yeah. Second, anybody? Second by Mr. Campbell, thank you, sir. We can sit here all night, I got nothing else to do. It was, alright, I'm gonna need, as the judge would say, I'm gonna need you to verbalize that, please. Oh, does it? Oh, so that's what we usually ask for, but haven't had in a while. Alright, all those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, nay? I do have a list apparently that incorporates all those offers, so if we could just, everybody say aye if they're in favor of that.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay? Okay. We got the list approved too.
Show that by consensus.
Okay, yes, Adam, you're up.
Back to the line, please.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Back to the multi.
Yep.
Good afternoon. I'll be quick. I just wanted to let you know you all received electronic paper copies now of the 2019 redevelopment annual report. As part of that's actually state statute required provision for all redevelopment commissions across the state to file that. We actually have filed that on your behalf to the executive office, mayor's office in this case, as well. And then by the April deadline, we'll be working with the finance department to upload that to the Department of Local Government Finance, which is a state agency that ultimately collects all of this for data sharing purposes on the state's transparency report. So happy to answer any questions with the report, but otherwise just want to make sure to put that officially in the minutes that it's delivered and send it to you all, and then we'll take care of getting it uploaded to the state within the next few weeks. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lastly, the mayor is not here. All right. We will stand adjourned then. Wait, claim, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, you got another page. Don't let me go without doing that. I know people want to get paid. Jeez. You would think I had somewhere to go the way I'm flying through here. All right. Is there a motion to approve the claims docket totaling $754,354.32?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Bowden.
You're welcome.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Campbell. All right, any discussion from anyone? All right, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion approved 5-0. Does anybody else have any business they want to? Come on, Christian. Mr. Maslowski, you're up, sir.
Real quickly.
You probably got nervous when I said we're out of here, didn't you?
I thought he was reminded about the claims docket.
You weren't expecting it. So good evening. Yes, we can say that now, right? Good evening. Christian Maslowski, Aspire, Johnson County. I was very excited to be able to introduce to you for the first time our new Vice President of Economic Development. I'm so pleased to introduce Amanda Rubadoo. Amanda's a lifelong Southsider, spent a lot of her time and money in Johnson County, very familiar with us. She comes to us by way of the city of Westfield, where she was recently the Economic Development Director and started her career in site selection with a national brokerage firm, ended up in planning at the city of Westfield, and then launching their Economic Development Department. So we are very excited to have her on our team. You will get to know and meet Amanda as she's shepherding projects through, but I wanted to make sure that I formally introduced Amanda to you. So.
Thank you.
Welcome.
You want to say anything? The floor is yours if you want to say anything.
Goodness. I'm just very excited to be here. I'm looking forward to working with you guys.
Good.
Thank you.
It's nice to meet you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anybody have anything? Okay. All right. Now we will stand adjourned at 5:14.
That officially got the green team gavel.
Yeah, Kevin.